Hi guys, today we are going to be reading two short horror stories from the Scary Stories subreddit. If you enjoy the stories, please like and subscribe. Enjoy. I follow people at night. It's not as weird as you think. I'm not a stalker or anything like that. I just pick random people and follow behind them for a while. People watching is considered normal, and I think of following people around as just a more involved version of that. When you people watch in public places, you see how people act when they're in a social setting. But I'm more interested in how people act when they think that nobody is watching. I'll admit that I get a thrill out of being stealthy enough to remain unseen. It's like a game to me, staying just far enough away and in the shadows to avoid detection. Usually, though, people do realize that they're being followed. I've been doing this for long enough to know for certain that people have a sixth sense about this kind of thing. I can be as inconspicuous and quiet as possible, but more often than not, they'll still stop in their tracks at a certain point and look in all directions because they felt someone staring into the back of their head. After that, if I'm playing the game right, they'll just shake it off and continue on their way, and I'll continue right behind them. I like to see where people go at night. I'll follow people to bars, clubs, hotels, parks, convenience stores, or whatever, and peek through the windows to see what they're buying or who they're talking to. Sometimes I'll wait outside, watching for hours, until they leave again, and then I take up the chase all over again. My favorite is when I get to follow them home. I find it so fascinating to see who lives in all of the apartments and houses around the city. That's where their sixth sense will typically kick in again, or for the first time, if they haven't subconsciously detected me before that. Something about standing on the doorstep and fumbling for the keys makes people acutely aware of strangers who may be watching from afar. A couple of weeks ago, I spotted a beautiful girl as the sun was setting. I follow all kinds of people. I don't just creep on women all of the time. But she was so pretty that I found it impossible to resist staying on her tail. Night fell, and I followed her as she went on a rambling and seemingly aimless walk around the city. It was especially hard to keep myself from being seen. She was more paranoid than most of my subjects. Her head was around her shoulder and looking suspiciously around every few minutes. I laughed to myself after a while. She was no match for me. I had been doing this for so long that I didn't think that there was a chance I could be spotted. That was until we arrived at her doorstep. She lived in a rundown house on the edge of town. The neighborhood was in near total darkness, except for when the streetlights would flicker on for just a single moment every minute or so. I had bad luck that night. She got paranoid and checked her peripherals right as the lights flickered and she saw me crouching behind a bush. "Who are you?" she called out into the pitch blackness. I didn't say a word. I thought that if I stayed quiet and motionless, she might think that her mind was just playing tricks on her. "I see you there. What do you want?" I could tell that the jig was up. I rose slowly to my feet as she pulled her phone out and shone the flashlight at me. She asked again, "Who are you?" I didn't know what to say. This was the first time that I had been caught without any sort of plausible deniability that I could use as an excuse. So against my better judgment, I was honest. I simply told her that I had been following her. "Following me? Why?" I kept it vague. I just told her that it's what I do. "Oh, then you must be my guardian angel," she said with an odd mixture of excitement and relief. I laughed and said that I suppose that I must be. "I'm so glad that you're here. I knew that you would come. I just knew it. I've been waiting for you." Her response was strange and it made me uneasy. I asked her if she had seen me following her earlier that night, because I figured that that's what she must have been referring to. "No, but I saw him," she said quietly. "The devil." The devil. I asked her who this devil was. "You didn't see him. He's been following me for weeks, and he keeps getting a little closer each time. I hoped and prayed that my guardian angel would come and save me. If the devil is following me, then the angel who watches over me must be following too. That's when my sixth sense kicked in. The hairs on my neck stood up straight. I didn't hear a sound. I didn't catch anything out of the corner of my eye, but somehow I knew that there was something behind me. Suddenly, the street was unnaturally quiet, as if the air around us had frozen in place, and I heard the breath get caught in the pretty girl's throat. I turned and looked. What I saw only for a second. The streetlights blinked on for a single moment, and I saw the devil that had followed us both. It was a horribly bloated and decomposing corpse, with eyes and mouth full of maggots, clothed in a hooded robe, standing perfectly still about a yard away. The light went back out. A gust of wind as cold as death itself blew across my face, and the stench of 1,000 open graves filled my nostrils. The girl behind me screamed so loudly that I thought that my eardrums would burst. I ran. I couldn't save her. I didn't even try. I wasn't her guardian angel. I was just a coward. But what could I have done against whatever that thing was? I never saw it move, but I know that it got past me and killed her. As I made my escape, her screams seemed to only get louder until they suddenly stopped completely. There was never any report about what happened in the media. I came back to that neighborhood a week later and asked some of her neighbors about what happened to her. They told me that she just up and disappeared one day. No body was ever found. She had just vanished. I tried to get back into my hobby. I started following people around again, but something felt wrong. I kept getting the feeling that I was the one who was actually being stalked. That hooded corpse started appearing in the corner of my eye, but by the time I could turn my head to look, it would be gone. It's better at hiding than I am. Eventually, I stopped trying to follow people, and I quit going out at night entirely. When I look out of my windows after dark, I'll see it standing there in the street. As soon as I blink, I lose it. I don't know how much longer I have. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but I could swear that I saw it in the reflection of my bathroom mirror last night. Okay, that was it, guys. It's time for the second story. A visitor who never left. I was 18 years old female when this happened. At the time, I was living at home with my parents, who had recently moved far out into the countryside. Their farm was part of a tiny rural cluster, about 7 farms on one road. That night, I was home alone with our dog, a large Labrador I was looking after until my parents came back the next day. It was around 11 p.m. I was lying on the upstairs couch with a movie playing quietly on the TV, half asleep and relaxed in the stillness of the house. Then 3 loud knocks shattered the silence. They came from the front door downstairs, the door directly at the bottom of the staircase leading up to where I was. The sound was sharp and deliberate, not hesitant, not accidental. My dog sprang out of his bed beside me and started barking immediately. I tried to calm him, but he was beyond listening. He bolted down the stairs and positioned himself in front of the door, barking and growling into the darkness. Outside the courtyard was completely black. I stood halfway down the staircase, my pulse hammering in my ears, and called out, "Hello." No reply, just silence. I called again, louder this time. Still nothing. The quiet that followed felt wrong, thick and watchful. After a moment that felt much longer than it was, I forced myself to move. I stepped down the rest of the stairs, my dog still tense at the door. Carefully, I opened it just enough to lean my head outside. There was nothing there. No lights, no movement, no footsteps fading away. Only the dark courtyard and the cold night air. It felt like whoever, or whatever, had knocked, had simply vanished. I shut the door quickly and locked every entrance in the house. My hands were shaking as I called my parents. They immediately contacted our neighbors, a couple who lived nearby. Within minutes they arrived. I explained what had happened, still trying to steady my voice. They decided to walk around the barns and check the property. Those 10 minutes felt endless. When they returned, they said they hadn't found anything. Still, they strongly suggested I come sleep in their guest room for the night. I told them it was probably just me overreacting if nothing had been found. But they kept insisting, more seriously than I expected, that it would be safer to come with them. I refused. I couldn't leave my dog alone. Before leaving, they told me to call immediately if anything else happened, no matter how small. When my parents returned the next day, they installed surveillance cameras outside the front door. They said it was to make me feel safer, especially since I was often home alone with the dog. A few months later, my parents were celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. During the evening, I found myself talking with my female neighbor and thanked her again for coming over that night. Her expression shifted. She went quiet for a moment, like she was weighing whether to say what was on her mind. Then she told me she had to be honest with me. That night, shortly before my parents called her, she had been outside saying goodnight to her horses. The yard was completely still. No wind, no distant cars, nothing. That's when she heard it. Footsteps. Clear, deliberate footsteps crunching through the gravel in our courtyard. Not random, not hurried. Slow, controlled, like someone walking with purpose in the dark. She said the sound carried unnaturally well in the silence. Then the footsteps stopped, right there in the yard. She waited to hear them continue, to hear someone speak, a door, anything. But there was only a heavy, suffocating silence. And just moments later, all my parents called her about the knocking. She told me she never heard those footsteps leave. So those were all the stories I had prepared for you guys. I hope you enjoyed them, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you did. Bye, and see you in the next video.